Based on its initial premise, Kate Cox's Into the Deep sounds like a deliciously twisted thriller. It could veer into campy territory, but it should at least be some entertaining fun. Now, when a film doesn't follow the initial expectations set by the viewer, it doesn't automatically become something bad. Different can be a positive, but that's assuming the movie still manages to succeed in other areas. While Into the Deep shows moments of promise, it doesn't chase that promise all the way to the end. There's still something missing. Hindered by a lack of suspense and implausible actions, Into the Deep is unable to rise above its issues to become a gripping viewing experience. Still haunted by the death of her mother a decade before, Jess Ella Ray Smith lives a relatively simple life in a seaside vacation town. However, things get a lot more complicated when she meets attractive tourist Ben, Matthew Daddario. Jess wakes up on Ben's boat after a night of whirlwind romance to discover he's brought them out to sea. Despite her initial misgivings, she soon embraces the domesticity Ben seems to be offering. The unexpected arrival of a stranger named Lexi, Jessica Alexander, leads to a dangerous cat-and-mouse game as she and Ben accuse each other of vicious lies, forcing Jess to take a side and fight for her survival. Very early on, Into the Deep asks its audience to forgive some very questionable actions. Jess and Ben have a decent connection that can explain away any reasons why Jess should have ventured onto his boat. However, when she wakes up the next morning and learns she's in the middle of the ocean, it's hard for the audience to not wonder why she doesn't become more wary of Ben's motives. Screenwriter David Betten doesn't initially give Ben much depth beyond his charm, so it isn't entirely clear why Jess is so willing to stay with him outside his looks and their shared tragic backstory. Jess' mother's death comes up frequently, and it just so happens Ben's dad died years ago as well. Into the Deep seems more focused on keeping its characters in the same place rather than imagining how a real person might act in this situation. The implausibility continues into certain plot points, right up until the very end. The very last twist strains credulity. If there is a place where Into the Deep succeeds, though, it is in fostering genuine mystery. Cox struggles with creating suspense, but once Lexi's true motives are uncovered, there is a spark of intrigue. Is she lying, or is Ben? With the viewer firmly planted in Jess' shoes, there is no easy answer, and that makes the unfolding narrative compelling. Unfortunately, it must be noted that this comes rather late in Into the Deep's fairly short runtime. The speed at which the central premise comes about contributes to the lack of suspense, as it takes a while to really dig into what is going on between Lexi and Ben. On the plus side, the boat setting proves to be an asset for Into the Deep. Forced into close quarters, the characters are constantly brushing up against each other and colliding, making for a claustrophobic atmosphere at times. Cox does a good job at fully exploring the space the characters occupy and making it come to life. As the ostensible lead, Smith is stuck with justifying Jess' misguided decisions through her performance. Overall, she handles it well. Daddario's best moments come out when Into the Deep settles into its he said, she said portion. One almost wishes he had been allowed to go deeper, pun not intended, into that aspect of Ben's character. Alexander makes up the third part of Into the Deep's thorny triangle, and she too gets to show off a different side to Lexi once the truth starts to come out. Everyone's performance is hindered by their characters being underwritten, though Alexander does the best job at considering what was left unsaid about Lexi. As a thriller, Into the Deep falls short. As a mystery, it is relatively solid, though it takes too long to actually get to the latter. Those looking for jaw-dropping plot twists might end up disappointed. There are some things that Into the Deep does well, but it is ultimately too slight to really commit to any of its interesting ideas. By the time the violence between the three characters ends, one just wishes their conflict had included a bit more flair. Into the Deep releases in theaters, on demand, and digital Friday, August 26. It is 91 minutes long and rated R for some sexual content, nudity, drug use, violence, and language throughout.
My heart returns to you.